Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something I've been working on for like 2 months now, and I am actually really nervous to be filming this because, again, I've been working on this for about 2 months and there's a high probability that this is not going to be entertaining or work out well. And I also have to show you a piece of like our artwork is really stretching it. Something I drew for this, and I am not an artist. It is something I always wished I was. I was always super envious of my little artsy friends. I am not an artist, but before we start and before I show it, I am 30 years old, okay? I know when I'm not good at something. This is not like oh, tell me my drawings are good. No, they are not good. They are passable. They're fun. It's something I had fun doing. So I don't need you guys to be like, oh no, it's okay, they look great. I don't need that because I know it's not great. I am good at plenty of other things. Drawing is not one of them. Now, kind of the point of me talking about this is I have created a new TBR game for me to kind of help me get through my books already on my TBR, because that's kind of the goal. All the books that I pick off of here have to be from my TBR, or I can get them from Scribd. I'm not allowed to buy any books for these prompts, which is going to get really interesting because there's a whole section for sci-fi and I don't have a lot of sci-fi, and there's a whole section for horror and I don't have a ton of horror. So the stretch is going to be interesting when we get to some of these prompts. But if I successfully use this TBR game and I actually get through my TBR and I actually like do the prompts, then I will probably hire somebody off of Etsy, like an independent artist, to have them redraw up my vision, because like I'm really good at imagining things, but like when I put pen to paper, I'm like, that's not what I pictured. The lines are squiggly, the trees are looking real weird. So that's kind of my idea, is if 3 or 4 months from now, if I'm still doing this, I'll probably hire somebody off of Etsy to actually make a rendition of something that looks really nice. So that is something I'm really excited about, but we're just gonna jump into this TBR game because I gotta explain it to you guys. I'm really excited and so nervous. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure you subscribe for more, hopefully more TBR games to see how it goes. Because from now on in my wrap-ups, besides obviously the one for May, I'll be talking about if I was successful with my prompts. So that's gonna be fun. I also like doing that. I like seeing like progression throughout the month. So I think it'll be really fun to actually do like a TBR thing that I enjoy, because I don't like just making up TBRs, which is kind of the point of this game. So anyway, let's get into the actual game board. I know you guys saw it already from the thumbnail, but we're gonna look at it real close. So this is my little game board. I spent like 2 months on this stupid thing, and I would sit there and be like, this is awful. I'm also not an artist because I'm not patient. So this, I actually have not named like the overall world. So this is kind of like the kingdom, and they run all the other kingdoms. This is where like the king and queen live. And some of this might change also as we go on, as I like kind of figure out my own way of doing this, because depending on how much of this works and the prompts work, etc., we'll see. It could adjust as we go on, or hopefully it just all works the first time. So as you can see, we have lines that are going to the other like continents, and they're each a different genre. And there's no like historical fiction, there's no contemporary, because I don't read a lot of those. And if I force myself to read those, it's not gonna be a good look. It's not gonna be good. I'm not gonna read it, and this is going to fail. So I picked my favorite genres plus a couple I want to read more of. So before we go over how it actually works, let's go through the actual continents. So how this board is gonna work, number-wise first, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 6 is going to be free choice for me. I can pick whatever. So we'll get into that in a second. I just wanted to start that off, which is because we're starting with 1, my explanation for 1. So first we have the science fiction world. This is the one I'm probably the most nervous to get because it's the least amount that I read. So our traveler, when they get picked to go here, they come here and they're going to go through a crater field. Yes, those are craters. And then how this works is we have mandatory stops. So if you've ever played the game of life, there's mandatory stops where you have to like, get married, go to college. I did that backwards, but I got married in college, so technically in grad school, but I was still in college, and then have kids, something like that. So that's kind of like this. I put mandatory stops to slow the game down because this could go really, really fast. And if I get off a world and I get to go back home, I get to go buy a book of that genre. So that's really exciting. And then it starts all over again with different prompts. So, Crater Field and our first mandatory stop. You'll see on the other ones, this is one of the first ones that I drew. I feel like the worlds get kind of better the more I drew, but this is our first mandatory stop, and the other worlds, they are different colors, so they're easy to distinguish. But this is our first stop, and this is a rocket debris field, and I was watching Alien at the time, so you're basically getting attacked by an alien, and there's a specific prompt for it. I'm not going to go through the prompts because I have a master list, and I'll explain how the prompt works when we get to them. So then we move on to one of my other favorite science fiction / almost like a horror is Stepford Wives. So this is like basically a cloned neighborhood. So we're going through the cloned neighborhood, and then we have another mandatory stop at like a pod thing. Again, I was watching Alien while I was drawing this. So little pod area that you're kind of trapped in, you have to escape. And then we go through an abandoned ruined city where we meet a time traveler at the very end, and we have a time traveling prompt. So that's kind of how it works. Each spot is a single square. So we're going to be rolling dice for this. So if I roll an initial 1, that'll take me to the science fiction area. And the first one I roll, this is where we start. So then I roll another dice. This will make a lot more sense when you see it. Roll another dice, and if I get like a 3, I would go 1, 2, 3. And on my computer, there's a corresponding set of prompts. So now, if I was actually like here and I rolled next month, I almost said next week, I'm not doing this every week. If I rolled next week and I got a 5, I would move 1, 2, and then stop, because this is a mandatory stop, and I would do the mandatory prompt. So that's kind of how I'm slowing the game down a bit, because it would go very quickly, and my husband would be like, why are you buying all these books? So, which I buy a bunch of books anyway. But anyway, so that is a science fiction world. If I roll a 2, I would be going to Enigma, which is our mystery thriller world. And I decided to make it I think this is the first one that I drew, because this is the roughest one, because I crammed way too much stuff in this one. But anyway, we're going to start here, and we're going to go through a neighborhood all about domestic thrillers, and our mandatory stop is right here, something to do with domestic thrillers. And then we're going to move on to a crime scene. Don't judge me. We're gonna move to a crime scene. There's 6 spots on here for the crime scene, and then we'll move on to the police station having to do with interrogations. And then we're gonna move through a sketchy forest where we get lost, and then we find a body in the woods, and that is our last mandatory prompt. And once you finish the last mandatory prompt, you automatically leave, because it wouldn't make sense to roll again and then just leave. So that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so that's mystery thriller. Then we have Austin Land, which is our romance area. I'm trying to think how to get into frame. Okay, so for our romance area, this was the hardest one for me to come up with prompts to like actually draw. But we have a campus that we're going through, campus prompts, and then you can see the different square. I finally figured out, I was like, oh, I should make those more obvious that they're mandatory stops for the audience that I'm actually doing this for. So there's something to a school campus, and then we're walking along a beach, and then there's a pier, that's our other mandatory stop, and then we're walking through an office space, because office romances are probably one of my favorite tropes. And then we have a mandatory stop before the end of that. So that one was probably like the hardest one to figure out. So moving on, if we roll a 4, because this is a 3, yeah, this is 3. If we roll a 4, we will be in the fantasy area, and we will go through, notice how like they kind of do look better, like these look worse than these. We go through obviously an enchanted forest where we end up at like a witch's house. This is a mandatory stop. And then we'll go through a village that's been corrupted, and we have to do stuff in the village. And then we'll end up at the castle on the hill that overlooks the village, and that's our other mandatory stop. And then we'll be walking through, I had a hard time figuring this out, those are graves. A battlefield. A lot of fantasy books have battlefields, so stuff related to battlefields in books. And then our last mandatory stop is at a castle that is stuck by a curse, and then we can leave after that. I threw a windmill in there just because it's cute. And then finally, if we get a 5, we will go to our horror world, where I drew an amusement park. I was really proud of this amusement park. Kind of like the windmill. I was really proud of the windmill. Go to the amusement park, where we'll have prompts for the amusement park. We'll stop at the park entrance, obviously I'm trying to get out. And then we're gonna go obviously through a grave site and have prompts based on that. And then there's a haunted house. And then we're gonna go through a super thick woods, and there's the last mandatory stop before we can leave. So I know that's a bit confusing. It'll make sense once you see like the rolls. So like I said, we're gonna roll initial. Whatever number we get there corresponds to where our little adventure goes first, okay? And then I'm gonna roll a second time, and that will decide where we land and what prompt on my master list that we pick. And then I will tell you what books I hope to read for those prompts. Now, if I don't read the actual book that I show in this video, that's how I'm kind of making it looser, because I am a mood reader. It is better if I'm like, okay, this is what I would like to read, but if I end up reading something else, that's okay. There's really no punishment or disadvantage to not doing it, because if I do that, I'm gonna feel bad about myself. So I'm not doing that. It's just, this is just to help me read my TBR, and hopefully you guys enjoy it and it makes sense. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna roll for the continents first, because that way I can tell you where we're going, and then I'm gonna actually show you where we place people, which hopefully makes sense. So I'm gonna cut to me rolling for the continents. Okay, so we got a pretty good mix plus 2 choice options, which is really cool. But how I'm gonna do it is, because I wanna roll first, I'm gonna come over back here and talk about the rolls so I don't see the actual board and therefore pick strategically. I don't want this to be like a strategic thing. I just want it to be fun, random, surprise me prompts. And trust me, I made the prompts forever ago, so I have no idea what they are. So I'm like, no clue, not even the mandatory ones, because the mandatory ones are like more specific for the most part. So the first roll is a 5, which is going to be horror. We're going to be going to Haddonsborough. If you don't know Haddonsborough, if you don't know horror, Haddonsborough probably doesn't mean anything to you, but it is actually a mix of 2 of my favorite horror movies. Haddonsfield is for Halloween and Wadesboro is for Scream. Such a nerd thing, but I absolutely love those movies, so I thought it was really fun to do that for horror. But so we'll have a horror book, which is exciting because I actually just bought some horror books that I'm really excited to read. We rolled 2 6s, so I don't know what I want to do with those. So let's go to the others first. Then rolled a 2, which is gonna be a mystery thriller, which is exciting. I also have a bunch of mystery thrillers. There's some mystery thrillers I want to read. So yeah, I'm like just thinking about what I have. And then I rolled a 3, which is a romance. I have so many romances in this house that I should be able to find something hopefully that matches the prompts for that. So because I'm already going to, I'm looking at the board down here, because I'm already going to horror, I'm going to Haddonsborough, Enigma, which is mystery, and Austin Land. I feel like I should just spread it out. And my 2 choose your owns. But I kind of want to read, like, I feel like I'm in a mystery mood. Oh, or I'm in a fantasy mood. I'm trying to think about, like, what I have to do this month, like what books that I have to read. I think I have to read another mystery thriller. So I could attempt that and try and fit it in there. You know what? I'm in a horror mood. We're gonna go, one of my choices, horror, and then I think I'm gonna be reading a science fiction. So we're gonna go to science fiction. So weirdly enough, fantasy, the book, the choice that I read the most of, we're not gonna be going to, which doesn't mean I'm not gonna read fantasy this month. I'm gonna read plenty of fantasy. I'll probably still read more fantasy than everything else, but I want to kind of go out of my comfort zone a little bit and pick some other books, especially because I just picked up some horror books. So, oh, this could be a really bad choice. Okay, so we're gonna go over to rolling again and actually seeing placements of things. So let's cut over to the rolling again. So hopefully after seeing my role and how I moved, you kind of get a little bit of a better idea this first round. And like I said, we got Haddonsboro, which is horror, and I rolled a 3, so I landed on the 3 space. And I ended up getting the prompt, read a horror book, because all these, if they take place in the horror world, it always has horror at the beginning. That follows a group of people. So I thought this was interesting because a lot of the horror that I read definitely centers around like a focal person. So I was like, this is gonna be a really hard one, but I felt it was appropriate in like an amusement park setting because that is currently where we're located on the board. So that kind of fit that kind of aesthetic. Some of you are gonna have a problem with this choice. I know it already. Some of you are gonna have problems with a lot of the choices I make during this game because genres, they bend. Like, they do not follow just like black and white lines. They're very different. So what I consider horror, some other people might not, because a lot of my horror tastes actually run closer to the thriller side, but there's like an extra aspect to it. So a lot of you probably are not going to like this pick for horror, but I think it's perfect. So I'm going to be reading The Island by Natasha Preston. If you saw my authors I will never read from, or books I will never read, books and authors I'll never read again, this author is on that list. Unfortunately, I gave my husband free reign at the bookstore to get me 3 books so I can do a vlog to see if I like his picks. So he picked this one and he picked 2 other ones. And I was like, why are you doing this to me? But he thinks it sounds really good. And this is perfect for this prompt because this is following a group of people in an amusement park. And this is definitely borderline thriller horror. It's taking place on a jagged island, a private amusement park for the very rich or the very influential. Liam, James, Will, Ava, Harper, and Paisley, social media influencers with millions of followers, have been invited for an exclusive weekend before the park opens. They'll create posts and videos for their channels and report every second of their VIP treatment. When the teens arrive, they're stunned. The resort is even better than they imagined. Their hotel rooms are unreal. The park's themed rides are incredible, and the island is hauntingly beautiful. Their jam-packed schedule seems to cover every moment of their visit, but soon they realize that something's missing, getting off the island alive. So, I feel like this is perfect. We're in the theme park area of Haddonsboro, and it's following a group of people. So this is, I mean, this fits in perfectly. And I had to read it this month anyway for that vlog, so very happy with that pick. So next, I rolled again for Haddonsboro, and you kind of got an idea this time of what I meant by mandatory stops. So I rolled a 5, but I couldn't actually do 5 spots because I hit that mandatory stop point. So this is technically a bigger, more specific prompt. Some of them, I had a hard time with some of the romance ones. Basically, this prompt is, we are stuck in the amusement park and we need to escape. It's a haunted amusement park or something's chasing us. Something is going down that we need to escape, and that's why we're at the park entrance. And the prompt is, we need to escape quickly, therefore you need to read a novella. I know it's not super specific, but for me, this is a really hard one because I don't read a lot of novellas. But I'm really lucky this month that I landed on this because I actually have a novella that I've been wanting to read, and that just came out and I was able to get from my library. I know some people might consider this like a short story. I don't know like the difference between, I know it probably has to do with page count, but this is just over 100 pages. And it is The Salt Grows Heavy. And this I got from my library. Library books also count because like I'm not buying any. The key is not to buy any. So The Salt Grows Heavy is a very interesting idea. We're following like this mermaid, and mermaids are super evil, or they're sirens. I think it might be sirens. Nope, it's mermaids. So mermaid's super evil. She had children with a king and they like devoured parts of the world, and she teams up with this plague doctor, and for 100 pages they're, I guess, roaming around trying to find other areas to live in or consume, etc. So this is a very quick 100-page book. I'm really excited to try this one. I'm a little nervous because I did read like the first 2 pages to kind of get an idea, like when I first got it from the library. And it's definitely more abstract. So I'm a little nervous about this one, but I'm excited, and it actually fits the prompt. And I actually have a novella to read because I normally just don't. I don't. I rolled for my sci-fi world, and that was hard. That was really hard. I really forgot how little sci-fi books I have, and the sci-fi books I do have seem to be about like abandoned ships and space travel. And the prompt that I got was competition slash missions if you can't find a competition book. So I put the caveat in there because I really wanted to read a competition sci-fi book because they're really cool. I've read some really good ones in the past, but I know it can be kind of hard, and I am sparse on my sci-fi. So I put and missions in there to like give myself a little out, and I really didn't want to use it. I really didn't want to use it, but it looks like unfortunately we're using it. So for this prompt, I actually have two choices that I could pick. First, we have the chilling effect. This has to do with missions, but it's at least like a set of missions, like they're being sent on them, almost like a competition kind of thing. They're just not competing against anybody, but it's like a set of things they have to do. So I feel like it's pretty close, but it's not exactly what I wanted. So I'm a little disappointed in this one. Potentially, as the month goes on, I could find a different sci-fi book that fits competition, but as of right now, I can't find anything in my house. So this is one option. And then I had to throw this one out because this one's also missions. It's just I feel like it fits the prompt a little less, but it is Aurora Rising, and it says that she's in the graduating class and she's being assigned to their first missions. So that fits it. I feel like this being sent on a series of missions probably fits it better, but I want to read this one more. So we're gonna see. I don't know. Both of these could fit this prompt, so we're just gonna see which one I get to, or I might read both of them. That seems... I get a little excited. I doubt I'm gonna read both of them. So next we rolled for Enigma or mystery area, and the prompt that we end up getting is, I feel like, the hardest one. Like, I have so many mystery thriller books. So we're currently in neighborhood area, and we got the prompt of missing neighbor or dead neighbor, specifically neighborhood-esque kind of things going on. This was way harder than I thought it was gonna be. I was so surprised. I was like, why? This shouldn't be that hard. This really shouldn't be that hard. But apparently I don't buy a lot of neighbor books. I don't know, so that was hard. I have two that possibly fit this. I feel like they're branching out a little bit, because like in my head when I wrote this prompt, I was thinking like a neighbor you didn't know that well, or like almost like a domestic neighborhood thriller kind of thing. And I feel like the two books that I was able to find that even remotely match that are not exactly that. So first option is The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda, who is definitely known for like their domestic neighborhood thrillers. This is more like they're living in the same little small town, and one of their little friends, when their kids goes missing, and they find them dead, and that's kind of what kicks off the story, and now they're all adults figuring out what's happening. So I mean, it kind of works. It's not exactly what I was expecting. And again, I have time. I have time. These may not be it, but these are like my backups if I don't find anything else or nothing else comes out this month, because I'm always getting new thriller mystery books. And then the other option is Rules for Vanishing. And this is kind of along the same lines. Small town, someone goes missing. I kind of like this better because this is a missing book. Sarah's sister Becca disappeared 1 year ago searching for the ghost of Lucy Gallows. In the sleepy town of Briar Glen, Lucy's road is nothing more than local lore, but Sarah knows it's real and Becca is trapped on it. So this is like almost horror thriller-esque, but I feel like the mystery aspect kind of pushes it more into mystery and thriller versus a horror choice, but this could kind of be used as a horror choice. So I think this one works better for what I wanted with like a missing persons thing, but the other one works a little better for like neighborhood maybe. So that's kind of my two choices for that, and again, I may find something better later in the month. And then we're down to our last pick, our last book, which was in the romance area, and I had such a hard time with this one too. So I rolled, and the prompt that we got is campus on the cover, so which fits because we're currently in the campus area of the romance map. all of my campus books are thriller mysteries. I am shocked because I was like, oh, I have the perfect one for this. It's called The Sharp Edge of Silence, and I realized it's like a contemporary mystery. And I was like, well, shoot! Why do none of my romance books have like a campus or buildings on them? So that was very frustrating because I spent probably the most time trying to find this book. After I rolled, I was like, oh, this should be really easy. And then I searched the whole house and I was like, do I seriously not have a single romance book that has like a building on it? So that was stressful to say the least. So I think I found one that kind of fits. I don't think it's exactly, again, what I was looking for. And it is Camp by Elsie Rosen. And campus, camp. I'm counting it. I'm counting it because I've been wanting to read this one. And I think it fits just fine. And it does have to do with like an outdoor campus kind of thing because it's not taking place at a summer camp and it seems like it's kind of like a big, exciting summer camp. So campus, camp. I'm gonna go with it. So these are some of the books that I'm going to be trying to read this month. I'm not gonna get to all of them and some of them may not get to at all. The two that I definitely like see myself like 100% getting to are the two horror picks. So The Island and The Salt Grows Heavy. Those two I'm definitely probably gonna get to. I'm definitely gonna get to those two. The others, I don't know. It just depends if I find like better choices for the prompts or what. I don't know. But I think this is a pretty good stack of books. These are exciting. So anyway, that was the first round of my TBR game. I hope it made sense. Because I feel like anytime you're explaining a new game that has a little more extra components to it, it is a little confusing. So I hope it made a lot of sense, especially seeing the roles and the movement and stuff, etc. And I'm trying to make sure that the cut of this video makes sense because it was kind of hard to film. So it may change as we go on. The game may look a little bit different every time I do it, just be getting used to the idea of it and seeing what streamlines it, etc. So definitely had a lot of fun doing this though. I really liked going to find the prompts. That's kind of the point of this, was trying to get myself to pick some books on my backlist, and I feel like I did some of that a little bit, kind of. Again, I hope you really enjoyed it. So if you have any questions about the game, definitely put them down below. If you have any suggestions, if you have anything else to say about it, etc., I would love to hear. Just nothing about the artwork. Nothing about the artwork. I know it's not great, okay? Nothing about that. But anyway, make sure you subscribe to see more TBR games and to see my wrap up at the end of June to see if I actually did the prompts. That would be really exciting to see. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure you comment down below. I always love hearing from you guys, and I had a good time. I did. This is a different video for me and I had a good time doing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll see you guys in the next one.